Welcome to our November board meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. If you'd all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda is our message from our superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Towers. Good morning, or almost a good morning. How about good evening, everyone? Welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. We are glad you have joined us. We have 4 wonderful people out in the audience. We're glad you're with us. Awesome staff members. I'm sure there's plenty of people at home watching us tonight. So, as we all know, the safety of our students and staff is paramount to the overall success of our learning environment in the SCSD. Our hearts go out to all the families affected by the recent terribly tragic event in the SLPS recently. I want everyone to know that we are doing everything we can with training and technology to make sure everyone who enters our school doors is safe. And we just, again, our hearts and our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody affected in the St. Louis City schools with the shooting that took place. And again, that is something that keeps me up at night in terms of the safety, and I know we're doing everything we can. Speaking of safety, I do want to mention that we sent out some correspondence probably a week or so ago about the water issue or the water field in the city of St. Charles, and I'm happy to report tonight. 2 reports have come back. One, we've done some sampling, some testing ourselves that we've already shared that with our staff, but also the county just sent me an email as well that all levels are totally clean. There's nothing that's detectable that would be harmful in our drinking water supply at this time. Do you want to add anything to that? I kind of probably threw that at you, but. So, and I just got that email, so I thought I'd share that with you, so that is good news. As we finished the month of October, we facilitated parent-teacher conferences, and we also had 2 all-staff PD days. We enjoyed connecting with all of our parents and guardians during our virtual and our in-person conferences. Together, we make a great team, and also our PD days were packed full of great, informative, inspiring information, which gave our staff ample opportunities to grow as well. So it was a really good month in terms of parent-teacher conferences and our PD days. We are in the month of November, and we're having a great year as we continue our regular school protocols. We are seeing the benefits to having our staff and students continue in the most normal setting possible. However, please be aware of the possible rise in respiratory viruses and the flu during the winter months. With that said, I want to remind everyone that each individual has the option of wearing a mask when they feel they need to. Also, practicing healthy hygiene protocols and staying home when sick will also help protect everyone through the winter months. As we move forward, I want to reiterate that everything we do centers around the safety and community and continuity of our learning environment. And I want to thank our Board of Education and our staff for doing everything they can to make sure that we continue to have a great school year. Also in November, tomorrow is Veterans Day. There are several ways our schools are celebrating our veterans throughout the district tomorrow. Please join me in thanking all of our men and women who have served and who are serving for our freedom. If we can give them a hand, I appreciate it. Anybody in the audience or here a veteran? Okay. Well, we thank you for your service. If you're watching us and you're a veteran, thank you for your service.
Please stand up.
Fall's sports activity seasons are winding down. St. Charles West football team will play in the district championship tomorrow night against Luther North, so good luck to the Warriors. And then the St. Charles West girls cross country team won the state team title, so we have another state championship team to celebrate in the district. We want to say congratulations to all the runners. Great job. We'll give them a hand as well. We also know there is an awesome play starting to get planned for at St. Charles High, but starting, I think, tonight is opening night for St. Charles West, and they have, I think, Steel Magnolias, so that's exciting. Our Care to Learn Gala was a huge success. It was our biggest one yet. We raised over $173,000. You clap for that too, Donna.
Great. Well,
All proceeds go directly to meeting the health, hunger, hygiene needs of our students and I can personally tell you it was a great time. We had a lot of fun. Ben Podcast is back. We've had new episodes rolling, so stay tuned and enjoy that. And tonight, we have worked hard to prepare a few important reviews and presentations. We have a change of percentage for passing grade that we'll work on again tonight. We also have a Blackhurst Bond construction project, CSIP review for governance and quality staff, and then we'll also finish up with a district financial report. I really can't believe it's mid-November. This year is moving along quickly as we prepare for the upcoming break. I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot of great things to be thankful for in the SCSD, and I know I'm thankful for our staff and for the families that we serve every day. And so I'd just like to say, as I finish my comments, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Towers.
Thank you. Item 3.04, board communications.
Yes, we've got two thank you notes. This one is not signed. SCSD Board of Education, thank you for supporting your teachers at last night's board meeting. Even though we started the school year back to normal, it does not feel the same. Teaching kids is harder now than it was before, and I don't know why. You approving the calendar revision and stipend go a long way in showing your support for us, and it is so, so appreciated. And this one is, I think, from Lincoln, the staff at Lincoln, they all signed it.
Also, and I'm not going to, hope I'm not stealing Brendan's fire, I probably talk about it, but right before the meeting, Brendan Kearns passed around these two magazines. We have an elementary teacher who's now published 2 articles in the Something Better for the Missouri NEA magazine. So congratulations to Kim Elder, but I don't know, you might be mentioning it and I'm stealing your thunder. Well, anyway, we're proud of our staff. We have people who are maybe not published and not recognized right now, but we have amazing people working in this district. They all need a lot of recognition. We're proud of all of them. They deserve all of the help we can give them. Item 3.05 is the audience comments. So, Kayla. Yes.
It's all good.
I do it every time.
So all regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
Thank you. We have Kayla Gilmore. How's that?
Yay. I'm Kayla Gilmore, English teacher over at St. Charles High School. I'm speaking on behalf of MSTA and our MSTA members throughout the district. We first want to thank you guys for our 2 extra days around break and for our stipend. That really, it comes a long way and says our teachers can't do enough for us, and we really do want to thank you for that. We also want to thank the insurance committee and all the things that they did for our benefits this year. We're having a really good open enrollment, and so thank you to all of them. Our members also want to say thank you for having a school that continuously works towards the growth and the goals of our students in academic, social, and emotional needs, as well as for the new leadership that you guys have provided. Welcome to all you new board members this year, and our new emphasis on our school cultures. They also wanted to say thank you for all the quick responses after the tragedy in St. Louis. We're really excited about how you guys took extremely quick action to proactively improve our own school buildings. As a person who works at St. Charles High with like who knows how many entrances. We're very thankful that you guys are taking our safety very seriously, proactively instead of reactively. We do have a few concerns. One of our members in the district wants to know who is going to let educators know who's in charge of what. For example, school counselors are held accountable for the M66 requirements, but they're not always made aware of those. Thus, they're given low scores on some of the NSIP 6 requirements. They just want to know if that will reflect back on them, and they just want to know some more clarity on if they're being held accountable to just make sure that they know that. We are also having one member increased in the concern about the increase of rigor for less time for play and creativity. There's just so much time in the day, but they just want you to please think about the amount of time that we let our children be children, and especially in our elementary schools. Across the board, overall, our members would like to have a few words about the 65 to 60 change. Overall, our members are against this action. Many of us believe that this is simply lowering the standards for our students. The whole philosophy of our PBIS system is so that students can learn, reteach, practice with them. We show them that they're capable of certain things, but lowering that standard just sends the message we don't believe that they're even capable of doing that bare minimum. It's just going to set them up for failure in college and in the working world that they're moving into as adults. Often the students who don't earn a passing grade aren't necessarily the can't do's, kids who are having some issues, but are more often than not the won't do's, kids who just won't do the work in order to receive that passing grade of currently 65. In the end, this is only lowering the expectations for students who are not truly willing to help themselves. And again, that is not really helpful for our students as they move into careers and college educations. Please think about the expectations that you want the students in our district to have, the long-term effects that this is going to show to our students, and the quality of the education that you want this district to produce. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Brendan Kearns.
Good evening, thank you. I'd like to open up. We recently had elections in our education support professional organization, so I wanted to introduce our two new presidents first. You guys want to come on up and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Jill Meyer. I'm a health clerk in the district, and looking forward to all that we can do with the support staff.
And I'm Kathy Alsdorf. I am a para at Hardin Middle School. And again, just working with our staff and the school board and our administration.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. They've been great to work with so far, and we hope to build a strong relationship with our education support professionals. I'm Brendan Kearns. I'm the president of the St. Charles Education Association, the bargaining organization for certified employees in the City of St. Charles School District. We have a lot to celebrate this month, hoping I don't run too long. I'd like to start out. Earlier in October, our executive director for the state, Deanne All, and our director of communications, Mark Jones, swung by to visit our early childhood center, spoke glowingly about the experience. It was my first time touring the center as well. Great to see the great work that we're doing there. They remarked that they thought it was the nicest facility, early childhood facility they had been into. They are looking to do a feature in our Something Better magazine about early childhood, so the photos from our district will be used for that. Other things we have to celebrate, we had two amazing professional development days on October 27th and 28th. 16 of our members presented on those 2 days, so thank you to them for helping to build a stronger learning community here. The PD Day is a massive undertaking by our DPDC committee, and several SCEA members sit on that committee. So thank you to Katie Will, Lisa Graham, Alicia Niemans, Karen Loftus, Caitlin Cromian, Carla Johnson, and Dawn Trainin for your efforts over the past year in making that day come together. This year, Missouri NEA has teamed up with Mizzou to recognize classroom heroes. Winners receive tickets to a Mizzou game, VIP parking, and are recognized on the field during the day. I'm excited to say that Coverdell librarian and SCEA member Kellery Anders was picked as one of the winners. Kellery is a passionate and dedicated educator and the biggest Mizzou fan I know, so I could not imagine a better winner. Look for her at halftime at an upcoming game. As you guys saw earlier, Missouri NEA's magazine, Something Better, is featuring another article written by Harris and Monroe teacher Kim Elder. This time around, Kim is writing about recycling and reusing items within the classroom. It's a fun and creative article, so be sure to check that out. Finally, we have American Education Week coming up next week. For over 100 years, NEA has participated in this, recognizing education professionals. So make sure to thank an educator in your lives next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Item 3.06, do I have a motion to amend or adopt the agenda?
I move we amend the agenda and remove item 4.8 to not the consent agenda. For a quick question about the 403B retirement plan resolution.
Okay, my question is, that there are two motions in that one, aren't there?
But we have to.
That's consent agenda, so they'll both go down.
they're both,
Thank you.
But I don't want to talk about
Yeah.
the other.
All right, so we have a motion to amend the agenda to remove item 4.08 from the consent agenda down to item 5.01. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we will make that move. Item 4.01, the consent agenda. For efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature, or are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? As amended.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the consent agenda as amended has been approved. And now item 5.01, we'll look at the item that we removed, and that's the bids and contracts. And so you had a question about that, Ellen?
Yes, my question for Jeremy, on the resolution to amend the 403B plan, what is changing about the 403B?
That's a great question. That's a great question. We have, since 2009, had a third-party administrator oversee the 403Bs in our district. We have many, many providers that employees can choose from, but Omni is our third-party administrator. So in 2020, there were some IRS changes that will be instituted, and we have to agree to by December 31st of 22. Specifically, if we have ever had a part-time employee become eligible for a 403B, we cannot change that at any point in the history that that person is employed by the City of St. Charles School District. And then the second change, and the second amendment that's being proposed by Omni, or actually that we were required to follow, it involves hardships. So previously, with a 403B, any employee that goes through and submits paperwork for a hardship would have to get a loan first before they're allowed to touch their 403B without penalty. Now, under any FEMA declaration of disaster, that employee is allowed to not take out a loan and go into their 403B without penalty. So essentially, those are the changes. Absolutely.
Is there anything with it going retroactive that concerns us, I guess?
Not at all. Okay.
No other questions about that. Do I have a motion to approve the two items under 408? It's the Latitude Therapy Solution and the 403B Retirement Plan Resolution.
I move we approve
Those two items.
those two items.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, item 6.01 is the old business, talking about the change of percentage for passing grades. We have, maybe Earl, I'm going to pass this over to you first to add some information.
Sure, so we did survey the teachers as requested after the last board meeting. Let me see if I can pull it up. So we surveyed the teachers at Hardin, St. Charles High, St. Charles West, and Success. We had 120 staff members who replied to the survey. Out of the 120, 76.9 were in favor of making that change. And out of those who answered yes, 77.2 were in favor of making that change now in time for semester grades. I will let you know that because we've already had the first quarter grades inputted at Hardin, if we were to lower the grade, that would be 118 students whose grades would be impacted and would go from an F to a D.
Some discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Since we're probably going to approve this change, is there any thought given to disallowing unlimited retakes at the high school level? In my teaching time, I found that students sometimes used the first test for a practice test, and they were allowed to retake it until whatever. And there are only so many ways you can ask, what are the causes of the Civil War? And is there any thought given to amending that policy that any student can have unlimited retakes?
So I don't think we've given thought to it yet. However, I will say that in order to retake a test at the secondary level, every content area has a set of guidelines that students have to, expectations that they have to follow in order to be able to retake a test. It isn't just that they fail a test and then I'm gonna come back the next day and I'm gonna take it again, come back the next day until I pass. There are a set of criteria that teachers have agreed upon that they would like students to follow in order to be able to take that assessment again. And some of those items include attending after-school study sessions or before-school study sessions or doing some makeup work or having the lesson retaught in order to be able to take the assessment again.
I don't. Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, Donna, go on.
I was going to weigh in on that also because, and this is old school, but I mean, in my day, it was a 60% or lower was failing, and that was it. And I agree with Ms. Gilmore's comment about life skills. I don't want to lower our expectations. I don't want that to be the case. I'm looking at other districts all are at like a 60%, and it makes it difficult, I think. So I'm not going to say that it's a done deal. We're talking about it right now, but I absolutely think that if we say a 60% is failing, and we have taught it, and we've given you every chance to learn it, and now you're being assessed on it. Again, if we were talking about life skills, where's the life skill that says I get to have do-overs until I get to do it right? I mean, in life, if your boss has a project and you don't get the project, you know, it impacts your salary or something. So I would, if it's not, and I don't know if it's a policy, but the practice that we have right now, that we allow for students to retake a test, I'm not in favor, wasn't in favor of it anyway.
Right.
But
So I will say, and I'm not saying that I'm for nor against,
Yeah.
I will say that it is a part of standards-based grading to allow students to be able to retest. I will also say that there are some assessments that you can take over, like a driver's test. You are able to take that over until you pass. Tests to become a teacher or administrator, those are tests that you are able to take over and over until you pass.
But when you put it all together, you can take the test over and over, and we're going to drop the grade. And there's no, at least when Eli was there 2 years ago, there's no real penalty for late work. I mean, you put it all together, it just seems like we're just doing this.
Where's the
Right.
accountability?
We're just doing, you know, I feel like things are starting to get a little, you know, we lowered limits for COVID, I feel like we're coming to the table every time with how we're gonna make things harder to do better.
Let's just
So-
remember, though, that this came up from a board member, so this is something that was brought up last month to talk about, and it was from a board member. So it's not, we didn't bring it to you all, so I don't think anybody on our end was saying, hey, and I'm not against it, but this was something that came from a board member. And the other piece is, right now, we're just talking about the 65 to 60. The whole policy and the procedures that have to do with retaking tests, there's a lot of research involved with SBG, and we can get into a lot of conversations about that, but that's not what we're talking about here. But doesn't mean we can't look at it. It's a fair point to bring up.
But you're right.
But I believe right now that we do have a hybrid system going that, as Earl has said, all of our departments have looked at what that looks like to balance it where then they all agree and are consistent within that department of if a child needs to take something over to make sure that they get the bottom line with SBG and everything else is to make sure the kids understand what they're doing and that they can show you that they can do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, in terms of lowering it and all those things and different, kind of a little bit of an old, I can go that direction too. That's a whole nother conversation that we can have.
Yep.
Tonight it is, do we want to go 65 to 60? And then we can continue, because I tell you this, we're having, and you'll see, we're having a lot of questions about, can we change this? Can we do this? Can we change this? I think part of that is because we have a new CNI person, to be honest with you. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So, but it's just fine. So we have to take things for each thing, now, do they build up? Sure they do. But I don't get the sense of that anybody in my department or that works is going, oh, we wanna make it easier for kids. We want to make sure that kids are getting the material, mastering the material. That's the bottom line.
Well, I am in favor. I mean, and mostly mine's, as I said, because like for transfer purposes, or when I'm just thinking of, there's 100 to 90 is an A, and then 80 is the B, and the 70, and then all of a sudden it was just 60. I'm not talking about whether it's standard-based or not. I'm just saying, it just makes sense to me that it has that same gap of
That
the
it's
60.
consistent,
Yeah,
yeah.
the same kind of spaces for the grade, and the fact that transferring in other schools, most of it are 60%. I do think if we can keep some children in the system because they got the 63 or the 62, and there's, they may still fail at a 60, but I don't know, I don't say we're lowering our standards, I just think it makes sense to have this kind of a consistent.
Sure, I agree. And then you said 77% of the teachers are for this?
Yes.
They would like to see this happen?
Yes.
Of those surveyed.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember why this came up as a topic last month. It was for consistency. That's all that it was for. It was, we're different than everybody else, and are we somewhat measuring ourselves to a different standard and harming ourselves because of it? Not harming, but for lack of better phrasing,
Yeah.
right? And when we go look at other schools in the area, why are we measuring ourselves differently? Why are we impacting students with it? It doesn't belittle or take away from the fact that lowering the grade does potentially increase graduation and help with other things. There are impacts for it, but it's important for the intention isn't for that, right? This isn't, we're gonna make ourselves look better by doing this. That's not the goal. The goal is for a focus on the student to match with what everybody else is doing around the area, because that's what's fair for what we have.
And
for our
also, and I
students.
agree with that, and we have to go back to the why of what we're talking about. But also, and I'm not speaking for that board member, but what I heard them say as well is, it's not about us looking about it, it's about giving those kids opportunities that might struggle a little bit, the same opportunities as the other kids in the other districts, that maybe they can graduate, maybe they can get a few more credits and get, and move on with their education. That was the whole why behind that. It comes along with, are we watering it down, are we doing this? So and you can have those conversations, and obviously, we heard from Representative Knight kind of speak upon that there's a certain group that maybe doesn't want it, but in terms of what we've seen in our data.
On our data,
Majority,
teachers.
and I don't think, I'll speak for you, I can go either way. I mean, I just don't,
Well,
but that's the why, and I appreciate you going back to what we're,
I don't think, again, maybe there might be a misinterpretation or something about why we might be making this change. But to me, I've already said, and we have acknowledged, that we have excellent teachers in this district, and we're proud of the efforts that they make. Their intent and our goal, even with standard-based grading, was to make sure we were seeing children improve and we were seeing growth. We're still stuck with some kind of a number that we have to come up with. So I'm just looking at an evening of the gaps and comparing them of other districts. I don't think whether, I'm saying I don't believe our teachers are going to change the way they operate, the way they teach their curriculum, whether it was a 63% that would pass or whether it was a 60. They're still trying to get their children to learn it. So
And I think as evidenced in the 118 students at Hardin that would be affected, like it could drastically affect a large population
Right.
of students.
And let me clarify, 118 grades, not necessarily students,
Right.
because some students
Yeah.
might have.
It's a good clarification. Could be a little bit of a difference.
Yes.
Is there any way, you made us some beautiful pie charts. Is there any way that you could convey those to the teachers affected?
To let them see the graphs?
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
That would help, clarify. And possibly the comments to take out the names, but.
The same document that I share with you, I can share with teachers.
Yeah,
To
that would
take
be
out some of the
helpful.
names,
you know.
absolutely.
I think that's another key piece to remember when we talk about this, because it came up as a topic, and some think we're ready to just go and pull the trigger right away. We took a second to think about it critically and pulse and get feedback, think about it a little bit more to make an informed decision. And I think that's what we're now doing by having the extra time to think about it and to know that and show that it's what we think is best for the district in comparison to others, and to give students the same opportunities that they would elsewhere.
and initially, we said, I should clarify, and I said I can go either way, because I can, but initially, we said, my response was, it doesn't really, I can see how this could help some kids, I'm fine with it, but timing for us would be, we would start next year with it. However, we've gotten to this point because we wanted to get more feedback, and so here we are, so.
And teachers said, though, that, like at Hardin, grades have already been issued. If we make that decision tonight, that we do this, and this is an immediate change in the middle of the year now, that they can make that adjustment electronically.
Yes, so we would have to go back through NSYS and change that cutoff to 60%. And then Hardin staff and Success, there weren't any students that will be impacted at Success by this change. But at Hardin, the teachers would have to go back and resubmit their grades again in order to update those scores.
That's a,
Manual.
I mean,
It's-
it's
it's-
an additional task, but it's doable.
It's doable. I mean, and as you saw, we did have 77% now.
Yeah,
I
you
don't know.
said, knowing that, yeah, okay, they were still in favor of doing it immediately. Yeah. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion? Let me see on the wording. Do I have a motion to approve the change of percentage for the passing grade?
Or am I making the motion? Or did you?
No, I'm
Oh,
just.
okay, I'll make the motion. I move to approve the change of percentage for passing grade as presented.
Is there a second? I second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we are going to be instituting that change. Thank you.
Don't get mad, Jason.
I have to use the
That's right, we did not get a break. And we didn't get a break if the audience wanted to leave. All right, well, we're moving ahead. You have I forgot to do that little break, sorry. You're going to have to remind me.
I just remembered myself.
For item 6.02, the Blackhurst Bond Construction Project, so I think, Jeremy, we're turning this part over to you.
All right, thank you so much. So part of the bond issue from 2021 was to create an additional space along with renovating the kitchen at Blackhurst Elementary School. And what we'd see is a two-story addition on the east side of that building going towards the driveway, in addition to a completely gutted kitchen area and redesigned a cafeteria space. That includes a tremendous amount of work just because of the design and the location of the building. There are two alternates on this also. The first alternate that you see would be two RTU rooftop units for air conditioning that would need to be added on due to the size and the scope of the project, and the existing RTU units are end of life. So we want to consider that. In addition, the second alternate bid on that construction project is new electrical load panels due to the increased work, and also the size of some of the equipment that we're going to be putting into the kitchen. We certainly want to make sure that it's far outpacing what we currently have, which is original to the building. It is original to the building. So we do not want to run into a situation where we have to go back and replace that after the construction has already began. So the bid right now is $3,097,000. That is about 400 and some odd thousand over estimate. That is about 400,000 over estimate. The nice thing about the bond project that we have, and I'm sure you guys are aware of, is we did sell the bonds at a premium because the interest rate was so low. And all that means is that the people that bought the bond purchased them for more than what they were worth, because they gain the interest back over the course of several months and each year when they get their interest payments back. So it's a safe investment for them. It would not be a good idea in today's market, but we were very fortunate as a school district in that they were sold at a premium. So now we have these rising rates, we would not be able to do so. We do not pay that interest back ever, or we do not pay that principal back ever. So we do have money in this market where you're going to see some items going over bid. We do have a very healthy safety net for those expenses. So it's not an alarm bell for me at this point in time, but certainly as we keep crunching the numbers and we get further down on the construction list, it's not like we're going to be careless and just asking you all to approve items that certainly aren't necessary or were not a part of the original scope that you approved prior to the bond being released. So I think that's probably it, if you guys have any questions.
And this is, you've probably answered this somewhere, and it might not be exactly at this point in time, but when we do new construction now, or that kind of this magnitude, do we have to put in that shelter room that
Yeah, not for
FEMA?
the, since we're not adding gymnasium space, we do not.
Okay.
We do not on this one. I should have told you also that the project for the addition would start this month. They have already moved a fiber optic vault that feeds in from the city to the building. We have two on every location, a primary and a secondary. They had to move the secondary one before we could even consider this project. So the addition would start this month, and then the kitchen project we do have slated for April 18th, which was in agreement with administration at Blackhurst, but it's also heavily advised in order for us to start the next school year without any interruption. So we would have interruption at the end of this school year, though.
Any other discussion?
No, I don't think, I like the information that gets shown on this one, especially with the comparison to everything else. It helps, I think, make us informed, and it also helps show that, we're being conscious about how we're spending things even when we have estimate and budget type concerns. So I, for once, when we're talking about money on this, don't have anything for further discussion because it's all there.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the Blackhurst Bond Construction Project as presented.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Item 7.01, this is the CSIP review, and we're taking in governance and quality of staff.
You can pass that on to me, and Ronnie's going to tag team with us. Chris, if you can get it. So before the pandemic hit, we were doing a really good job of regularly looking at our CSIP. First off, since our CSIP started in 2019, we've worked as a board and as a CO team to really make sure that all of our reviews of our programs have our CSIP goals embedded in them. So we've been indirectly reviewing our CSIP all along with our reviews and our program reviews. However, in MSIP 6, there's a very specific portion that talks about CSIPs and then also having a review in the CSIP. And so we want to make sure that we bring back an annual review. So we're going to do, if we do it all one time, that's a lot of information. So we're going to do governance, which is your all part, but I'm gonna lead that tonight. And then Rodney's gonna do highly qualified staff, and then the other three will go in March. So we'll divide it up that way. So it's just important to have a quick review of kind of where we're at. Again, we embed this in all of our programs because that's our work is meeting our CSIP goals, but we thought it was important to bring this back. So Chris, we're going to go through these slides pretty quick. So just to remind you of our CSIP, our mission obviously is reach, teach, and empower all students in a safe, diverse, and innovative learning environment. Our vision is to be the leader of academic excellence that prepares students to be successful in all aspects of life. Our value statements, I'm not going to read all of those, but they're in there for you to see them, from highly quality education for all students, and it includes all those things. High quality staff by, and it shows you the points there as well, and then also informed decisions that are student-centered, focused on student achievement, data-driven, considerate of all points of view, fiscally responsible. And then goals, again, tonight we're going to talk governance and highly qualified staff, but we also have student performance, parent and community involvement, facilities, support, and instructional resources. Nice thing is we have 5 goals and we have 5 COT members. So again, I'm doing governance tonight. Ronnie's going to do highly qualified staff. When we get into March, April, I think we've said March or April, maybe be April, but Earl will do the student performance, parent community involvement will be Julie, and then facility support and instructional resources will be Jeremy. So this is the report that we've done before, so this is just the style we've done it. So again, these are just quick points so you have a good idea of what we've been doing. So for governance, for me, for us, and that is so several of you were on it, but you all sat down and we came up with basically 3 main objectives: provide K through 12 school transitions to include efficiency, strong communication with those transitions, and continued evaluation of our grade level model; maintain fiscal responsibility and consider opportunities to balance resources to assure equity throughout the district. So transitions, fiscal responsibility, finances, and then also improve the public image of the district. So those are the 3 main areas. So if we look at the next slides, Chris, substantially met highlights, things that we've already have accomplished. We have really strengthened our transition activities process and looked at each point, basically at the point at each level. So from ECC to elementary to Jefferson to high school, and you can see some of those highlighted events that we've done. We were doing some of those things before this CSIP, but we've really strengthened those, and we have really have taken a look at really what makes a difference of connecting kids to the next level. For instance, at the high school level, both high schools this year really looked at what it looked like in the summertime before school started to bring kids in and really connect them in the buildings. And instead of just calling it transition days, we have a warrior welcome day, and then we have all aboard day for the Pirates, and it's divided up in different groups. And we did some of that before, but it's more of an in-depth connection with staff and students of, hey, now you're a Pirate, now you're a warrior, what does that look like? If you go back up to the Jefferson one, Jefferson's always had a very strong 4th grade celebration transition day, but that's even gotten more in-depth in terms of the activities that they do for that. You'll see transition meetings, different individual meetings that are happening in terms of student needs for kids as well. Principals and counselors visiting each level or the lower levels to make sure they're ready to go. I'm just talking strengths. We'll talk about what we're still working on here in just a second, so we'll have some things we're working on as well. But back up to the elementary with the ECC, obviously our Early Childhood Center, Parents as Teachers program is a huge program for us, for our littlest learners. And then that gets into, we do have a Get Ready for Kindergarten night that's more consistent than we had before. Obviously, transition IEP meetings, communication, student needs, the elementary schools. And then the elementary, lots of summer tours at the elementary levels, meet the teacher nights, a lot of events to make sure those kids are ready to go for elementary. And we've already talked about Jefferson and high school. I've left Hardin out of that because there are some things that we're gonna be working on at that level here in just a second that we'll talk about. We'll also put summer school on there because we did not have a comprehensive summer school program. Now, when I say comprehensive, it's not like we're having all this, like tons of, huge full-day programs. But as the pandemic has hit, we have really looked at our needs for our students to make sure they're ready to go to the next level during our summer school learning. Other Med highlights, so Chris, I'm on 11 now, yep. Stronger United School Identity and Student Connection. So again, just highlights of things that we're doing. I did put all access learning during the pandemic was on here for that connection. Also, events, programs, and activities, just examples. Obviously, the Love Awards at Jefferson's a huge one. Pirate Pride program at St. Charles High. Stronger social media presence at all levels. Opening school back up for pandemic. Care to Learn program. PBIS is a huge piece that we've been talking about, continuity of discipline and what we're doing throughout our school district. Leader in Me and league leaders from the high school kids coming down to the elementary levels. It's all about relationships and also our clubs and our sports teams. We also, the next slide, strengthen communication with students and parents. So we have responsive and revamped our websites. Obviously, a lot of this is Chris Bennett's work. Peach Jar has been a huge thing that we've added for the technology of Peach Jar, where all of the community flyers and different things can go straight home to parents via email that way. Monthly newsletters, S'more's been a huge thing that we've used, and that's about the translations for our different families that need different translations. That's been a huge transition and things that we've done for that, and really a big help and enhance our just our overall communication. Social media presence again, and then sources of funding and partnerships. We've had our no tax increase bond issue in 2021, a $50 million bond issue. Also transportation funding from state, so we were able to use that extra transportation funding to help with our bus drivers and their salaries. And just a side note, it's not on here, but because of that, and remember, we were in pretty tough shape, and we, this summer, are we up to 43 drivers? 43 drivers, which is pretty cool. We started with how many this summer? So it's pretty neat. We've done a really good job with that. Partnerships, we have a fiber network partner with the city of St. Charles and also with our clinic. They have come on and been a partner with our Bridge Healthcare as well with the city of St. Charles. Also, some more substantial Met highlights. Jeremy will talk about the fund balance in just a second, about maintaining or greater that 20%. We've got some good news on that tonight, so he'll kind of go over that. I know that there has been a little bit in flux because of our new software, Alio, has been just kind of, without saying it unprofessionally, kind of running them amok a little bit with our numbers and what that looks like, because it just has to align. It's been hard with our new system, but now that Jeremy's got some numbers for us tonight, so we've reset some elementary school boundaries with our new subdivisions that have come in. We've had final decisions aligned with, financial decisions aligned with our CSIP goals. ESSER funding has been a huge enhancement to our district. We have really looked at the learning gap, extra support for students and our staff. All of our money has basically have gone back to making sure our schools are safer, air quality, make sure there are learning gaps there, and then we've given the money back to our staff as well. And you saw not a huge, but a pretty good presentation on that last month, so you just had a really good idea what's going on with that. Ensuring a systematic approach with our SS United plan, our big rocks, our TI student needs, and spending resources and curriculum. We also, on the next slide, Chris, strong social media presence, again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, podcasts have been added, district communications integrated with SM platforms. If you have questions about that, you can see that guy back there. presented at several educational conferences and civic group meetings. And again, as you're thinking about those three main objectives, all this fills into that. MSBA, Ed Plus, National Alternative Education Conference. We've spoken at the Rotaries, the Optimists, the Kiwanis clubs. And then also strong community partnerships, again, City of St. Charles County governments, working with them, side by side, police, fire departments, ambulance district. Leslie was just at a meeting this afternoon that we will be a part of again as a leadership council, looking at what is our county, how is our county coming together to make sure that certain legislative movements don't hurt the funding for services. And so we'll be a part of that process again with our community as well. Again, Rotary, Optimist, Kiwanis clubs, Care to Learn, We Love St. Charles, Neighbor Helping Neighbor, and our local churches really have been a great support for us as well. Some of the ongoing needs, so these are the things that we really still want to work on the next 2 years as we're finishing out the CSIP. We're going to continue to review the strengths and weaknesses of our transition process. We feel like we've done a lot of that, but to strengthen that, but we think continue to look at what other districts do for transitions, kind of look at our middle school structure, and in the high schools. There has been nothing formal, but we do have some conversations. You know, we do have a board member that sometimes will bring up even in an open session about what does one high school look like, or there's been some conversations, do we go back to the 2 middle school model and those type of things. We don't have anything formal right now that we're saying that we're going towards that, but those are some conversations that we're having. I can just tell you for me personally, I looked up our enrollment for this month, and we're sitting about between 1,400 and 1,500 high school kids between the 2 high schools. And so when you're looking at one with about 640, 650, which is a small high school, and the other one's almost about 900 or 850, they're smaller in size. You put them together, 1,400 to 1,500 kids in a high school is a big high school. So what does that look like? And so I think those are conversations we can continue to have and see where we want to go with that. I also think continue to strengthen the transitions, and talk to Dr. Jewett, who has just come on in our Hardin Middle School. We really want to look at what that middle school transition looks like, and these are ideas that she's had that she's going to start working with her staff on, but counselors and RTI specialists from Jefferson and Hardin having transitioning meetings. So our new principal, Amanda Denson at Jefferson, has been already having conversations too with Stephanie Jewett on these things. But Jefferson 6th grade students visiting Hardin, we need to get that going again. We've had that before, but we need to get that going again. Open house for incoming 6th grade parents in the spring, and then a jump start day for 6th grade students, just kind of like our middle school, our high schools are doing with Warrior Day and All Aboard Day. We need to continue to review CSIP goals regularly and annually, like we're doing with the Board of Education. Continue to ensure financial decisions are aligned with our CSIP goals. We need to continue to look at and analyze our student population. Right now, we're sitting right at that 4,800 mark. That's probably about 200 less than what we were before the pandemic. It's not a huge slide, but that's something we want to watch. We also, and then if we need to, look at boundaries and structures as we go. At this point, we don't think that, as we've seen our new subdivisions come in, we're not seeing a huge influx of kids, so we're just gonna kind of watch that a little bit. Of course, when you get into just one middle, or intermediate and one middle school, there's not a whole lot of boundary changes that have to be made, but elementary-wise, you have to look at that a little bit. There has been some, I've heard at least some feedback, or at least from one person has asked us recently about what does it look like between 650 and 850 of the 2 high schools, and so if that gap gets any higher, we probably need to look at that as well. MSIP 6, we obviously have talked about that, and that system of how we're accredited from the state, so we're looking at that, looking at our surveys, collecting data from all stakeholders with that. We're also ongoing needs, the next slide, Chris. Chris and I are working on creating an advisory board for community relations, so that's in process, creating a revised marketing materials, that's always happening. Chris has done a great job of really making sure that if you haven't been on our websites lately, they're just really sharp looking in terms of videos and different things that just draw your eye and your attention to our website. Continue to seek ways to collect data from all stakeholders, create a plan to address communication marketing plan, not just, and Ellen, you and I have had these conversations before too, not just our stakeholders that have kids in the district, but also reaching out to the people who live in our district who want to support us, but they don't have kids here, so they don't get that information. Perfect example of what happened with that. Sometimes it takes a little money, but when we were looking at paras, custodians and bus drivers, Roddy and I and the group said, you know what can we do? We thought, well, let's do a job fair. Well, that's great, but how are you gonna get that information out? And we got, I don't know, what was it, Roddy, 20, 30 people that day, 20?
So we got to every resident. Did cost the district $4,000, but well worth it for a turnout that was only 2 hours long, and we it wasn't something that we advertised over a 4 or 6 week span. We probably did the advertising 2 weeks prior. Definitely hired a few staff members out of it.
To that point, the majority of the people who came in that day said, I am outside, not that they weren't connected with us, but they were outside of the district and they received their postcard. And I don't think we would have had that, I mean, Julie was interviewing pairs left and right, it seemed like, and we really needed them at the time when we grabbed a few from that day. And that might sound little, but that's a perfect example. We're talking about how do we reach out to the rest of our community that may not get all our information just because they don't have kids in the district. We're looking at promoting successes, again, the marketing plan, always making sure that we're putting our best foot forward on the social media market and make sure that people know the great things that are happening in our school district. Now, before we segue, because we didn't put a slide in here but for questions, I'm gonna have Rodney go through highly qualified staff. That was a lot of conversation, a lot of anything that highlights from you all or anything that you want to ask about governance and where we're at. A lot of work happening.
Well, a lot in all three of our big goals, but as you were pointing things out, it really occurred to me that since our last CSIP meeting, I have seen, and you pointed out, a big, more presence with our communication. We're getting into more areas, and I'm not that techie, but I know we're in a lot of areas now and getting the word out and using the technology. So the only other thing is we're working on, and that's transitions, so.
I have no question, but I do have a comment. I agree with Donna. I would say, and I guess kudos to Chris, but that the website is really impressive. Yeah, I do. I actually enjoy it.
User-friendly.
I watch the videos. So it's good job.
It's pretty neat.
You hired the right guy.
Well, I didn't hire him, but
Okay.
I'm glad he's here.
Oh.
So, thank you, though, I'll take the credit. The cool thing about that, too, talking about technology, like, if you see those videos and things, like, he's using a drone for some of that. I mean, it's pretty impressive, the things that we're doing. Do you want to add anything to that?
I would say that, like, one, we're always revamping.
Is your red light on?
Oh, of course not. So I think the neat thing about the websites is, one, is they're visually appealing, having the video is nice, but we kind of have a template now where we have, like Dr. Seifer was mentioning, drone shots, exterior shots, interior shots, and then student shots that can be updated every year or two. That way we're not kind of going through and redoing the whole thing. But each video has its own kind of feel. So if you go to a Coverdell video, you're seeing Coverdell. You're not just seeing a standard district video. You're not just seeing shots from all over the district. You're seeing a specific, High's football team. You're seeing West's spirit stick being given out. So it's things that really help kind of endear the community and people who go to the schools and the parents to that specific school, not just to the district itself.
And and Chris won't say that because he shouldn't say it, but I will. I'm a pretty pain in the side too, because there'll be times where like, okay, Chris, time to get the mask off the kids. Like, let's get new pictures. And also, it's awesome that we have all this technology and he's bringing it in, but if the information on there is not current or accurate, so I'm constantly kind of going through it and I'll say, hey, that's wrong, or that needs to be updated. And he's like, I got you. But it's just a constant to keep all that updated. And because let's face it, when you're wanting to know something about something, what do? You go to the internet and you go to the website. So we want to make sure that's a comprehensive place for us.
And it takes a village to run a website, and we have some pretty good people as building techs who assist me throughout the district, some of our guidance counselors over at the high schools, and other various people who kind of have a hand in that too. So it's not just me, there's a lot of people behind the scenes making sure those websites look as good and stay up to date.
But I've also heard from, just in conversations with people in the community about how user-friendly our website is now. I mean, it's easier for them to find things they're looking for.
Yeah, that's great, and that's kind of one of the big moves we had. We moved to like for lack of a better term, an above-the-fold photo-oriented back in like 2014. That was one of the first major projects I did. I was still a building tech over at Lewis and Clark. And then when that particular template was set to expire from Blackboard, Dr. Seifert and I kind of sat down and explored the idea of moving towards a more video-based website, and that's kind of what we've done. So it kind of draws you in, and it's kind of the template's very nice because it's got a video format which draws you in, but below it you have news cards which give you the most up-to-date pressing needs for the highlights of what's going on. You have calendars that are easily accessible, lunch menus, employment opportunities, and then a lot of times too, where the buildings come in, is you're able to embed some of the student newsletters or the parent newsletters on that main page too. So with just a couple, clicks or scrolls of the mouse, there's a lot of information that's easily digestible by the community just on the main page.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Rodney, highly qualified staff, please.
All right. So our key objectives are recruit a culturally diverse staff, and just first and foremost, obviously, I think for any school district, when you look at your student makeup, and I'll let you know of ours in a few, they're roughly accurate. You certainly want windows and mirrors, right? You want students to be able to be educated by teachers who look like them and to a certain degree sound like them, and it does provide of what the potential future can look like for them, right? Doesn't mean that teachers from other cultures can't educate kids, because I think we've all been educated by if we are male, female, if we are female, males, right? African Americans, white, Latinos, we've all been educated by other people, so it doesn't mean that they can't be educated, but having somebody that looks like you and educates you is important. So with that being said, so we're roughly around 76% in terms of our student body white. We have about 10% Hispanic, we're about 14% African American. Now those numbers might fluctuate, so certainly don't hold my feet to the fire, but they're relatively close. So obviously recruiting a diverse staff is of the utmost importance to us, because it just increases the possibility of a variety of students having educators that look like them. It may not be teachers, it could be all of our staff. We're looking at this holistically as well. Competitive salaries, you hear about it all the time, so that pretty much speaks for itself. And then the opportunities to explore additional staffing, which we'll get into. We have done, you've approved a lot of it along the way, and we'll get into it, like RTI specialists, we've approved some social workers, instructional coaches at the high school, so we've done some of those pieces. But grow your own is very, very important to us, and this, I have a much more working knowledge now than I did when I agreed that we were going to do it. But I think it's a phenomenal program, and it's really to start recruiting our high school students to become teachers and then bring them back. Now, what are all the details? I can't say I have all the details figured out, but ultimately, if you're at West or High and you want to become a teacher and you enter a Grow Your Own program, the goal is for you to come back and start your career with us. Many of our staff didn't realize, but it's almost like so much of our staff were part of like a pseudo Grow Your Own, right? Because they've been to college and they come back to the City of St. Charles School District and they are staff members here. But we want to be more intentional. I talked about adding instructional coaches for the high schools, and we think that's been a huge benefit. That's been pretty cool. We've added the RTI specialists at the elementary, Jefferson, and middle, was just this year. We have 5 social workers. That is correct, right, Julie? We have 5 social workers? No? How many? Oh, well, that's fantastic. So I'm off. 8, even better.
even better.
Now, if she would have said 3, that's not good.
Yeah.
But 8, I'm good.
8.
So we have 8. So we've increased the social worker, the social worker staff, because we know we have the social emotional needs of our kids, and certainly trying to provide more help for all of our students at all levels, so elementary, middle, and high, and making sure that they are housed there. Julie, am I missing anything when it comes to social workers and where they're placed? Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a real need for them at the bigger schools to have a full-time one there. So right now, we currently have one at Jefferson, one at Hardin, one at High, one at West, one at Success. Our crisis counselor was replaced with the social worker when he left this year, so that they could utilize that person for a lot of the same things, but more. Because our social workers are licensed professional counselors by trade as well. And then we have one at the Early Childhood Center that's provided by the grant, and then we have 2 for our 6 elementaries.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So obviously that need, knowing the social emotional needs of our students, so important. So that's an increase than what we have before we started with CSIP. And this is gradually, obviously it's not like the CSIP took place and then all of a sudden this came. It came over time with the need. Obviously, as I talked about earlier with our staff of color, it's up 37%, and that's among Asian, African American, and Hispanic. And so that's a good direction. That's a good trend. Competitive salary and benefits, we always try to be as competitive as possible when it comes to negotiations. And obviously, some of you have been a part of that. And that's not only for certified, that's for classified as well. We think we try to be as competitive as we can with all of our staff and not just one particular group. The stipends and the mental health days, you obviously got kudos for that as a board, and that has been a huge, blessing, and we're very fortunate that you approved those over the last couple of years. And certainly, we never had heard of COVID prior or at the beginning of CSIL, but certainly changed a few things for us. So with all that being said, we realize that things are not perfect, and we do realize while the Grow Your Own program is a thought and we are trying to formulate it, it needs to come to life. And so that's ongoing. Honestly, monitoring the enrollment and staffing needs, such as when we decided to add more social workers, that was a need based off the evaluation and monitoring of what students needed at that time, and then remaining competitive with total rewards. So, and what I mean by that is, when you come to the City of St. Charles School District on the 5th and the 20th, you're going to be paid, but what comes along with that? Obviously, it's a job, and we're grateful for that. But having access to the bridge, being able to bring your child to the City of St. Charles School District. So some of those perks, those extra little things that could tip the scales for us, I think we should always look at that. Salary's nice. We all want more money, and I agree. But what are those extra little things that makes it enticing? Because when it comes to a salary, I think, especially from a St. Charles County standpoint, we're all really competing for the same crop of talent. So what tips the scale, right? And I think it's beyond salary and looking at it holistically. What questions do you have?
Well, I'm excited to learn more about the Grow Your Own program.
Me
So
too.
I'm looking forward to finding out some more about that. But I agree that, I don't want to say we're the Goldilocks district, but we've talked about that we're a good size for our district. We're not so big that we don't have more of a personal knowledge of our staff, and you always bring all the needs to us, not just during negotiations. But I think as a board, highly qualified staff is paramount, of course. If we have good staff, we'll have, our children will be happy.
Yeah, I mean-
and successful, so.
I mean, we all agree. I mean, our district will only be as good as the people I bring to you to approve, right?
Keep bringing them.
We'll do our best, but our district is predicated on the people on our staff. And so we, highly qualified staff is obviously not just a group of words. It really means we want the best of the best in front of our kids.
And it's more and more difficult. I mean,
It is.
nationwide, it's hard, it's always been difficult, the education profession. I don't think people really understood. Now, I'm on a bandwagon here, but everybody went to school, and so as I remember talking to parents and people that just in my circle of friends who aren't in education.
Right.
And they always just thought, well, I know what goes on in a school. I graduated from a high school, or I was in fifth grade once, or whatever. They don't realize this is a difficult profession, and the people who choose to be teachers and paras and bus drivers and people who, first of all, they have to want to work with kids and
Yeah.
want the best for kids. And we're getting into a society, I think, that's a little more, I think, selfish. And I think it's hard now for teachers. I'm worried that not enough are going to go into our teaching profession.
You know, I think probably now from an HR perspective, and I didn't feel this way 5 years ago when I started, because I felt like the candidates were there. I mean, there are times when I'm doing authentic recruiting, right? And it's like, get on the phone, cold call a candidate, and listen. And if they sound like they could be a fit, I'm trying to tell them every reason why they should come to this school. I mean, authentic recruiting, because that's what it takes now, because they have options. Obviously, candidates have options. They don't have to come here. They don't have to be in this profession. You know, it's really a buyer's market, if you will, right? So the options are there to be employed somewhere else. So it's changing a little bit, and like I find that the need to change with the times.
And Rodney's your man. I've witnessed him talking people out of going to other interviews in other districts because there's no reason they need to do that whenever they can come work for us.
There's no reason any highly qualified candidate should ever look elsewhere.
We need to keep you in the district and not let you go into sales somewhere.
That's what it feels like, but I'll do what it takes.
Well, and I just want to make a comment, Rodney, because I remember, I've been on the board since 2017. And so I don't remember what year we were talking about it. I think it was prior to you. Jason, maybe you were still in HR. But we were talking about the fact that we need to diversify our staff.
Right.
Because St. Charles City is not Wentzville. We are a diverse community. And no offense to Wentzville, by the way. I just mean, but I mean, we talked about this, and I mean, you're nailing it. I mean, we're up 37%, and I mean, that's great.
Well, I would say this, is that it's interesting because individuals will go where they see representation.
Right.
You understand? Right. So that is so critical. And I don't place, like, that's not me per se, but with me being here, it gives another candidate outside to say, oh, there's an African-American in the central office.
Right.
There must be a shot at the principal, or there must be a shot at the AP, right? Or a teacher, or, I mean, so many folks don't even think they have a shot to be here until I get on the phone and say, absolutely, you do, and we need you to apply. So I don't think that really is with me. I think people are starting to see themselves in other staff members, and they're wanting to come on board.
And that's happening in our central office team, our principals, our teaching staff. I mean, it's exciting to see.
No, it's great to see. It's, I mean, I see the data, but when you're out in the district, you see it.
You see it.
You see it.
It's so true.
And
You
it's
see it.
great because
Yeah.
we were struggling with that.
Yep.
And we're doing much, much better. Yeah, so it's awesome.
Any other discussion on, okay, do I have a motion to, oh, no, this was just discussion.
informative.
Yeah, sorry, no motion. Change that.
Quality assurance. Quality assurance. Oh, dear.
F.
Daniel, that was funny.
That was a fail. Okay. Well, I'm moving on to item 8.01, financial report. Now you're up. You can do a better job.
All right, I'll do my best. I'll do my
Than
very
me.
best. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I'm
So
setting a low bar.
basically, what you'll see in the financial report is, it's good news. You know, my first year in this position, one of the biggest concerns is, what's it going to turn out to be in December, right? Where some schools, they're very accustomed to taking out a tax anticipation note, and we are certainly not one of those. So you don't want to be in a category where you're going against the trend line, and this will certainly show that we will not. we will not be in that. So on the first report that you see up there, it'll say a general end fund balance of 14 million, but you do have to subtract the self-insurance and add the food service, the student account, and the adult education money into it. So if you go to the next page, that will show you an end fund balance for the month end of October of $8,788,000. So what can be concerning at times is that when you look at what we pay monthly for teacher salary and benefits is about $6 million. So you look at that and you're thinking, well, that might get us through November, which would be true. We'd still have 2.7, this ballpark, 2.78 left over. So we'd be fine because most of our revenue we will see in December, and it will roll in very, very quickly in December. Additionally, we still are receiving revenue each month. And typically what we receive in November, just wrote it down, in 2021, in November, we had 3.7 million in revenue, and in 2020, we had 3.6 million in revenue. So we would hope that would trend in that direction. We believe it will trend in that direction. So that puts us going into December with a healthy amount within that fund. And then that just shows, the next two pages that you guys are very accustomed to, just shows the year-end totals. Remember, that's July 1 to what we currently, to October 30th. So that's what we have currently spent out of this budget for this fiscal school year. Speaking of that, we do not have a unrestricted fund balance on there right now because we are still, as our districts across the region and across the state, they are still working on finalizing the ASBR report with the state. And once we finalize that report, that's in cahoots with an audit that we're currently experiencing. Audit takes minimum of 30 days to complete. That started last Wednesday. Once we receive that report, we're hopeful that we're able to give you an unrestricted fund balance, which would go back to June 30th of upwards of 20%. And we're fairly confident that that's going to be I know that's going to be the case. I know that's going to be the case. So district finances are looking good. They're solid. We will certainly be able to pay the salaries of our employees without any concern whatsoever. And then we will roll in that money we would need for this current school year that we're in. So, and remember, that's going to be slightly larger just due to the personal property tax increases that everyone will experience and will hate to pay in December. So it doesn't mean that we raise the rates as a school district. It just means you have equity in your vehicle somehow.
Just a little side.
So beyond that, like I said, we have audits. We have an audit going not only for the district, but we have our food service audit that we're experiencing as well, and we're getting all the information sent into the state. That audit they will be on site November 15th, 16th, and 17th next week to go through various buildings and to pull some data from us. Insurance, as was mentioned, that enrollment period ended yesterday. It was good to get back and meet with a benefits counselor, but that doesn't mean there wasn't some headaches as we're trying to get every single employee to meet with a counselor. So we hopefully work through those, and our staff feels like, with hope, we feel like that they are knowledgeable in the insurance that we offer them and feel like their selections certainly benefit themselves and their families if they so choose to have that. We do have 3 bids that we're out. So we talked about the Blackhurst project, but we will have 3 more bids coming to you soon. That would be on Knoll, a big project there that would include a FEMA shelter. And then we have Lincoln HVAC, that's slightly smaller project, and along with Coverdell HVAC. So it's going to be another really busy summer with construction, and that's in addition to some of the capital projects that will be flowing through and the building automation work that will be happening in the summertime as well. So it will be busy, but it's always exciting to see those projects start. It's even more exciting to see them end. So that's all I've got.
So our projected ending, that slide that I always ask about.
Yep.
part of this is the changing over of systems. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it's better than it looks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't want to change it until we have official confirmation from the state, which that comes in the form of a letter, but obviously we're working with them right now just to get the ASBR completely finalized. And once we get that and we get the letter, then I think that we can change that number, but we would hate to change out of speculation without the state oversight.
I just feel better.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I understand.
Are there any discussion about the financial report? Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve the financial report as presented.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The financial report is approved. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I move we adjourn. Do I have a second? I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.